Welcome back to another edition of the Untitled Movie Podcast. Raven had a hot girl summer, so that's why we were not here.
Yeah, blame it on me. Blame it on me.
Hey, hot girl summer. That's the realness.
I mean, I did have a hot girl summer, but that's really not the reason we haven't recorded
yet.
You
just came back from Fiji and
I did.
All that good stuff. So how was Fiji?
Fiji was incredible. I will say that I've seen prettier beaches.
What do you mean by that?
So when you think of Fiji, I think you think of like the huts and the crystal clear water. And there were some areas of Fiji that were like that, but it's made up of 330 plus islands. And the main island that we were on, which is called Nandi, very, very cool place. The locals were amazing, but it's a little bit poorer country than I expected. I was thinking because it's so close to Australia and New Zealand, I was expecting a little bit more, I won't say domesticated. It's not necessarily third world country, but it's close.
It was that bad of a...
Yeah, it's definitely a poor country, but very, very... I've never met nicer, more welcoming people where they're just eager to tell you about their culture. And so the prettier islands that you think of when you think of Fiji are a little bit further away. So you had to hop on a boat to get to those. And we did see some really cool stuff. So does that cost
to go jump between islands?
Yeah, but it's super cheap. So I would say it's probably the equivalent of like $20 to hop on a boat or a ferry and go to one of the other islands.
So it's not like in Hawaii where you got to pay like another whole flight to go to another island?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was an amazing trip. I would recommend it for anybody, but, manage your expectations. The food also wasn't that great.
So like London was?
I actually like London's food. We've talked about this before. You got to go to the Indian restaurants.
London food sucks. All right, introduce our guest for us.
Yeah, so today we have Paul Hibbard.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Paul is one of my filmmaker friends. For those of you who know, I have a secret wish of leaving the practice of law and writing films, and so Paul has been my friend and mentor in that. Awesome St. Louis filmmaker. So Paul, tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, I'm a filmmaker. I'm currently doing a documentary called Here's to Us, which is about pole dancing. And we're about 1/3 of the way through. We have full access to this academy called.
Is it like pole dancing, like in the club?
It's some of that. Like a lot of the people in the documentary, they don't shy away from that. So I mean, most of our subjects don't, but when that subject comes up, they very much embrace it. One of our main subjects that we're focusing on is a pretty big dancer in Illinois on the east side.
Okay. That's my type.
So, but we have, they come from all walks of life. We have full access to the dancers of this studio, but we are really focusing on about 5 to 10 people. And these people have the most, the woman who runs this academy, she gave us these subjects. They have the most interesting backgrounds. A lot of them, they use pole dancing as a form of either therapy or another way to kind of better their lives. We have
wow, I never.
Oh, come on now.
I know. I'm just.
Hey. I mean, I think most of our listeners know. Even though I'm an attorney, I was a pole instructor until 2 weeks ago. So yes, I can attest to the fact that women use it as a form of fitness and artistic expression.
Not paying their way through college.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there are some who do that. So
and no hate on them either.
No shade. I'm just saying.
But we have like some of our subjects have been like sexually abused, and some of them are at the lowest parts of their life, and they used pole to kind of pull themselves back up. We have one subject who was a Chinese immigrant who came to America for the first year, knew no one, was completely depressed, and her introduction to what she now sees as America was pole dancing, and that's how she met all her friends.
Wow.
And so we got like an immigration. We're trying to get like all of the themes that are happening now in the country, whether it's sexual abuse or immigration or stuff like that, and we're putting it all.
Well, this wasn't the kind of documentary. This is a way different documentary.
Yeah, it's not what you were thinking. Daryl.
No, because I mean, this is one that if y'all get a chance, it's on YouTube and it's damn good. It's called Power of the Pussy.
Oh God.
No. See.
Go ahead, Daryl. I'm sorry.
It's about strip clubs in Atlanta. It's actually a good documentary. It's a series, like 5 episodes. It's pretty.
You know what? You didn't steer me wrong with Plug Love, so I trust
the streets
you.
are still looking for that Plug Love review. That's the. I think that could be the most downloaded episode. Plug Love.
Oh God. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh no. So I mean that's pretty much it. We have one subject that we are focusing on, who Raven actually knows. Her name is Regina Sykes, and she had a tragedy happen in her life. Her daughter was killed, so the film, along with being about pole dancing, is kind of a true crime story too that really
this is real interesting.
It is.
Yeah, I mean this is something that this is the first documentary I've ever directed, and I wouldn't have taken it on if it wasn't for the fact that it had these themes to it that really intrigued me as a narrative person.
Where can people kind of get ready or stay abreast of when it comes out?
They can come. Well, we have a Facebook page for Here's to Us, and there's also a website, so they can go to that. And we're about 1/3 of the way through with it. We're still pretty early in it, but what we have so far is pretty incredible. So we're pretty. It's probably going to take another year to a year and a half to finish.
Yeah, that documentary will take it forever.
Yeah, but when we finish, we're pretty excited about it.
Okay.
So yeah, and I'm a film critic too. I write for zeekfilm.org, and I love film. So
yeah, I know you know your stuff, man, because you always throwing some stuff at you, and you so you get with me.
Yeah, and Paul hasn't given himself enough credit. He's also my fellow horror film fanatic.
I love horror.
Yes,
I love horror, and if I know I'm plugging too much, but I have.
Of course, no, get it in.
I have a couple films now playing at festivals, and I have a couple films playing at the Salem Film Festival in Salem, Massachusetts, and it's this awesome, growing, huge film festival that is exploding. This year they had.
It's in Austin.
No, I'm sorry. It's in Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem, okay.
So and it's cool because like they really like focus. It's a very politically conscious horror festival. Yeah, and so that's kind of what I try to tend to make it, are more politically conscious horror movies. Yeah. And so they're in the middle of it. It was one last weekend, and then next weekend is the second half. And I had one movie play last weekend, and the next one plays the next half. And they had this awesome all-star group of people there. They had John Waters was there. Elvira was there.
Oh, cool.
Is Elvira still alive? I thought
apparently.
She's still alive. She looks great. I mean,
I thought she died though for some reason.
No. she looks incredible.
I didn't want to kill you, Elvira. Sorry.
So I'm excited about that too. So yeah. So I love horror.
All right. Well, I would have asked you your top 5 movies. But let's say your top 5 horror movies then.
You want top 5 horror?
Yeah.
Okay. Top 5
or influence horror.
Hey, it's timely. Happy Halloween.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna go 5 to 10. Here we go. I mean, this is something that I have in my mind. This isn't something.
Most people are like, oh man, you caught me.
No, you did not catch me. I know this. My number 5 is Evil Dead.
Ooh, okay.
Which it would be higher because it's really an inspiring film for me, but it's pretty amateurish because of how low their budget was. So I knock a little bit off because of that. But it's
you look down upon Evil Dead 2.
No, I love Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
I fucking love Evil Dead 2.
Because I know people that don't like Evil Dead 2 because they think it's way more cartoonier than first Evil Dead.
You know, honestly, if I had to say, I might say Evil Dead 2 is the better of the two. But Evil Dead 1, it's so low budget that it allowed filmmakers to think that they could do that. So the first time I watched Evil Dead, I was like, I can do that shit.
It was the Master P of movies that anybody can do.
Anyone can do it, yeah. So that's my number 5. My number 4 is going to be Suspiria. Have you ever seen Suspiria?
Oh.
It's on my list.
It's an Italian horror film about dance, and that movie is...
It's from 77?
77, yes. Okay. That movie is absolutely insane. It's one of these movies that you watch, and it does kind of reek of some amateurness, but it is also... They redid it in 2015, which is really good, too.
Okay.
No,
2018 it said.
18, yeah. Yeah, they redid it. And the remake's excellent. The remake's very different, though, but it's excellent. But the original one is like this movie that it just feels like a crazy person directed it. And it's like one of these movies that, like when you watch horror movies, you know who the director is, and you're just like, oh, I know this director, this is safe. But the first time I watched Suspiria, I had no idea who this director was. And it's insane. And in the middle of watching it, I was like, I don't know who this guy is, and I don't know what kind of hands I'm in, and I don't know where he's going to take this movie. And it is a crazy experience, but it's a very emotionally driven horror movie.
Yeah, I'm putting this down on my list.
Yeah, it's on my list. We'll have to put that on a movie night.
My number 3 is Texas.
Made a lot of money too.
Yeah, it did.
Damn. Okay.
3 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
Which is
Speaks
great.
for itself.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. Number 2 is The Thing.
Okay.
And
Okay, John Carpenter.
Yeah, John Carpenter. Yep. And number 1 is The Exorcist.
Yeah, that's my number 1 as well.
Yeah, I mean, along with just loving it, it's a very like that's the kind of movie I can say that it really works as a horror movie, but I can also say objectively it's the kind of film that should be taught in film school. Like it's the kind of movie that does everything right, along with working as a film itself. So I absolutely love The Exorcist.
It holds up over time too.
Yeah,
No matter when I watch that movie, it still frightens me. And not a lot of movies scare me, but that is still one that I can't watch at home at night by myself.
I still can't watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's a great movie.
I can't watch that, dude.
Can't say I've seen that.
You never seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Don't do it. No.
Did you see part 2 with George Clooney?
George Clooney is in part. I gotta watch this.
I
now.
believe he's in part 2.
Oh,
That sounds ridiculous.
All right, Raven. Since we're talking about horror, what are some of your favorite horror films?
Exorcist is my number 1. The Omen probably is number 2. Gosh, this is hard for me. Come back to me. You put me on the spot.
Is Halloween up there?
Halloween is on the list, but I wouldn't say top 5. Yeah, I wouldn't say top 5.
Are we considering Get Out a horror film?
I guess.
Or is that more suspense?
I would call that more suspense thriller.
Okay.
Which is kind of why I'm having a hard time, because there's some stuff that I think is more suspense thriller that I might throw in the horror category. I also really like The Others.
Ooh.
Poltergeist.
Okay.
That's good.
And I really like The Hills Have Eyes.
The original?
The remake.
Oh, you like the remake?
Yeah. Sorry to say, I have actually not seen the original.
Well, I back up that the original is better than the remake.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Reverse that. The remake's better than the original.
Okay.
I back you up. The remake's better than the original.
Okay.
Hills Have Eyes is crazy.
Yeah, and then Nightmare on Elm Street is kind of on my list too, just because that was one of the first horror movies I can remember seeing, and something I probably should not have been watching at 6, 7 years old. But I grew up with a young mom who was really into movies and let us watch whatever the heck we wanted.
See, that's I had a young mother too, and then you just kind of. She don't want to, I kind of want to watch. You only got one TV. Mm-hmm. Back in those days, y'all understand that y'all youngins, only one TV in the house.
Yeah, well,
you watch what your parents was watching.
Yeah, so unless it had sex in it, we were allowed to watch it. And so Nightmare on Elm Street still sticks out as a film in my mind because my sister would always sing that 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you whenever she wanted to scare the shit out of me.
Have you guys seen 2?
2 is interesting.
That's the super interesting one. Like that's the one where they basically saying that the main character is gay.
Yeah, have you heard the backstory for that?
No.
Okay, so the backstory is it's really interesting because that movie came out and it was kind of like an outlier because Wes Craven didn't like it, so he washed his hands of it and he came back for 3. For 3, right? For Dream Warriors. Yeah, and the part 2 kind of became like this this film that the LGBT community really got behind because it has a lot of gay themes and it was considered like this ultimate queer horror film for people in the LGBT community. But then the main actor of this, and I know all this because the main actor is at the Salem Horror Festival this weekend, so I randomly know a whole bunch about this. But he came out against the movie and he said the movie wasn't originally supposed to be a gay themed movie, but the director could tell he was gay and then rewrote the script to play his gay themes into it. And he is upset because he said that the film outed him, and because of that he couldn't get any work for straight roles. It's really interesting. There's actually a documentary that played at Salem that's coming out pretty soon called it's called My Nightmare or something, My Personal Nightmare or something like that, but it's about his story. Wow. I'm gonna look it up, the exact name.
It's a Jason movie, the third one is like that too, right? I think the Jason one is similar to that.
The third one's a 3D one.
It's one that's similar like that where it has a lot of homosexual themes, and I forgot the one where he's possessed by Jason.
That might be the.
That's the one with
Tommy Jarvis, right?
Yeah, but one of the Corys is in that one.
Yeah, that's 4. That's part 4.
Yeah, it's supposed to be their version of that. Yeah, I was into the weirdest stuff, man. I like Vampire in Brooklyn.
Wes Craven.
I don't know what it is about that. It's just random, stupid, and funny, man. And I'm not a big horror person, so living a black man every day is a whole enough horror for me. So I really don't do horror as much. I'm more suspense. I would say more than horror. Because I'm kind of a punk. Like all like little Conjurings and all this stuff y'all be going to see.
That's what I was gonna say. That's one I forgot to say. The Conjuring, I think, is one of the one of the modern ones that I really like. No,
I remember I was dating this girl and we went to go see The Orphan, and I was up in there for the cry. And I had
my god, that movie was so dumb.
Look, for a person that's not as scary like myself, I was like, she was like, "You all right, I'm good." This little girl don't kill nobody else. and I'm trying to think of any other horror. I mean, I like the Freddy movies. They're silly now, but I was scared to death of them as a kid. Jason 2, the Michael Myers films. You know which ones I do like, but it's kind of them is the Phantasm movies.
Phantasm movies are fucking excellent.
Yeah, like I like the Phantasm movies, man.
All of them
too. I like the third one a lot too for some reason because it's like weirdly because it goes between the first one and the second one's characters and they're kind of like merging and stuff because it's like he's trying to reach out and like those are excellent.
You guys talked about Get Out. Are you more Get Out or Us? Because I fully believe Us is a better movie.
Get Out is just so hit me in so many different places in my life. But Us was good. I think Us was way better than people was giving it credit for to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love Get Out, but I think Us is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Like, I think Us is so fucking spectacular. I think I think it'll go down and be remembered the way that certain movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre are
mentioned
best.
Candyman. That's another one I like. And he's redoing it.
I was going to say, I did hear they're remaking that.
And it got Todd back. Tony Todd.
Really?
He's playing Candyman again.
What?
I was like, oh, no. He is a great Candyman.
He is.
He's scary all the time. I'm already not going. I was like, this is good for y'all pocket, but I'm not going.
Because they got Peele producing, but he's not directing.
Yeah, and he's not directing.
Nia DaCosta's directing, and she's pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not going now. When that casting took me out, I was like, man, I want to see it. He came back. I was like, I'm good.
That was one that didn't scare me, so I feel like I need to rewatch it. It did not scare me.
Ooh. Yeah. I saw that, man, with a whole bunch of my older cousins, and they kept going in the bathroom doing the Candyman thing. Yeah. And maybe that's what messed me up. You know. And then they just kept on scaring me. I kept pissing in my pants, in my bed. It was a long night.
Oh, my.
It was a long night. That was a long night for me that night.
All right.
And another one I do like the Day of the Dead and basically all the Dead movies from Romero.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. The mall one is Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. And then you have Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is the best one. Yeah. That one kind of culturally flipped it. And I was like, because I watched with my uncle one night, because I saw the original, the remake they did in the 80s, where it was like brains. Where I was like, this is stupid.
That was the one that Tony... Wait. Are you talking about the Night of the Living Dead remake?
No, not that. Okay. When they did Night of the Living Dead, but they had like the punk rockers in the cemetery.
It's Return of the Living Dead?
Return of the Living Dead, right. And that was the first entry I had into the Living Dead movies. Yeah. My uncle was like, no, you got to see the original. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, it was scary as hell. And I was scared and I didn't go to sleep that night. But it was good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, especially as I got older, I appreciated that film and especially the multiple endings they had. That ending.
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead is excellent. And the remake's pretty good. I thought you were talking about the remake first.
Yeah, with Tony Todd.
Tony Todd plays Ben, yeah.
All right. Well, we've given our listeners a lot of Halloween movies to
let's get into something that's even kind of horrific.
Yeah.
Joker. That's what your original thoughts are.
Oh, wow. So have we figured out our rating system yet? Are we doing 1 to 5?
Yeah, 1 to 5 is good.
Okay.
Because 1 to 10 gets ridiculous.
Yeah, it really does. But I'm about to make it even more ridiculous just because I'm so indecisive on this. So I'm going to go with a letter system and a 1 to 5. So I think I would give it a B-.
Okay.
And then on a scale of 1 to 5, I think I'd give it a 3.8. So there was
you give it a super defined number. Like
I know. I'm indecisive. I left the movie really, really, really liking it, but I think I left liking Joaquin Phoenix's performance more than the movie itself.
Okay. I can see
that. In the days of kind of digesting the material, I realized some things that I didn't like and some things that I really did like. And we can get into that a little bit more, but I think the reason once I thought about it a little bit more that I wasn't as excited about it is because I wondered, did this really need to be a Joker origin story, or is it truly a Joker origin story, or is it just the story of a man with mental health issues who hits rock bottom?
Okay.
Okay. What's the rating system? Is it
1 through 5?
1 through 5. I would give this a 2 out of 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I really did not like this movie at all.
Okay.
I think that this movie, I don't really know who this movie is for, because I feel like for comic book fans, though, I mean, it does seem like they're kind of responding to it, but for comic book fans, I assume that the movie is probably a little too dour and depressing. And for what it's trying to be, which is, I mean, it's trying to be Taxi Driver, and in that type of film, it's not smart enough to pull that off. And like the whole time, when I watched this movie, I was angry. I was like viscerally angry watching this movie, because I was watching it and I was just like, this movie. I was like, fuck this movie for trying to pull this off, and fuck this movie for thinking that Todd Phillips is the director who can pull this off, because
of what he's done already.
Yeah, what he's done already. And I feel like this movie obviously wants to be Joker as Taxi Driver, and it's by someone who doesn't really seem to understand Taxi Driver. And I'm not sure, I'm not a comic book guy, but I'm not really sure how much he understands Joker either. And the whole time I just sat there just like angry, because it was a movie that was like unnecessarily depressing and didn't say anything with the depressing. Like it's this movie that thinks that it's super edgy and thinks that it's depressing and it hits all these hard themes, but in reality, it's a movie that doesn't say anything. Like, it doesn't say anything, and it's actually like I feel like the politics behind this movie are just cowardly. I feel like it's a movie that's afraid to take any sort of side whatsoever. And it's this movie that like thinks that it's edgy, but in reality, it's a very scared movie of offending anybody. So I didn't learn anything about the character. I didn't really learn anything about mental illness at all. To me, it doesn't hit any themes. I'll give it a 2 out of 5 because there's a few minor things that I like about it we can talk about. Yeah. And Joaquin obviously is great in it, so that's my rating.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Oh God, I gave it the highest. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
3.5, 4, almost 4. I would say almost 4. The reason this movie is actually awesome, I'm a comic book head, is that, and when I got home, I thought about it. This is Joker's dream of how he thinks his origin story is. He wants to believe all this stuff in this movie is stuff he wants to believe is true. He wants to believe he created Batman. He wants to believe he created Gotham City becoming the way Gotham City is. So that's what made me like, you know what? If I don't, but now the reason I dock it 5.5 because I don't think Todd Phillips was smart enough to think of that as the idea of how this movie could have been.
So you forced yourself into that.
No. That's the way you could have framed it.
Okay.
And it would have been a 4.5, 5 for me. But the fact that he didn't even know, he doesn't even ground in the comic books enough to know that's the angle he could have went. That's why I took the point from. Because he's not smart enough to know that that's what the angle he should have went. That this was the Joker's way that he likes his origin story to be, because every hero, he thinks he's the hero. So therefore, this would be the Joker's way of believing that he's the hero and Batman is the enemy and is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because he could, like they should have framed it like that, like where he is the enemy. Like Batman, his dad was bad. He's the seed of this bad guy, and that's the reason he's chasing me.
Yeah.
It's because he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what he's gonna do. That's what he's gonna do. And they didn't do it.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think this would be a good conversation because you're a comic book guy, and I'm not. So I'm viewing it very much as like him trying to take from Scorsese, and I look at it as just like this Scorsese cosplay sort of like.
Took that, if you would have been like, and that's my origin story, something in the end, would have changed that whole film for you? You've been like, wow, he thinks that he literally is the hero. He believes Batman is the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between.
And he's demented enough to believe that.
I'm somewhere in between the both of you because I'm a comic book movie fan.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a comic book fan. Not that I'm not a fan, but I just don't have that experience in history. So I was looking at it from the perspective of the way that the Joker story has been told through other Batman movies. And, moving from Jack Nicholson to Heath Ledger, it definitely got darker and darker. But this seemed so far off from what I understood the Joker to be. And, in some ways, maybe it is a true origin story. But the way that I've traditionally looked at the Joker is he knows he has this following. He is intentional with his political message. Joaquin Phoenix is just trying to survive. Like, he's just trying to make it through, and he kind of falls into this place after hitting rock bottom. And he says several times, like, it wasn't my intention to start a movement.
But see, that's the thing, though. I think he's lying this whole movie. That's the thing of the Joker. A lot of this comes from a lot of the Killing Joke comic, where basically he has this standoff with Batman, and he goes, there is not that much difference between me and you. Mm-hmm. It's just that people think I'm crazy, and people think you're not.
Yeah.
And that's they would have kind of fed into that Killing Joke a little bit more. I'd have been like, oh, because I thought that's what they're going to do. When I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, he read the Killing Joke. He gets the aspects of the Killing Joke. Because really, I remember someone once we were talking about comic books, and they said that the Joker's superpower is just being at the right place at the right times and knowing what to just knowing the randomly things to do. Like, that's his superpower. He has no superpower, but he knows where to be at the right time, and he knows when to get out of there, and he knows what makes people tick or what's going to piss people off.
Yeah, I think, like, I look at the Joker traditionally as a very intentional character, and I don't feel like that's the way that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was written.
That's the way if he would have played into it. Yeah. That the Joker believes that he's not intentional because all these other things made me that.
Yeah.
But he's really just crazy, and he really just wanted to do that. But he's trying to but he wants everyone to believe and feel sorry for him. And that's why I think at the end, when he ended up killing the psychiatrist at the end, and he's skipping through, is more like, I told her some bullshit story because that's my origin story. But they didn't feed into it. Yeah. That's what pissed me off. Like, they didn't feed into it.
So that takes me to a question that I had, and I've heard a lot of people from the other reviews that I've listened to have. Did that actually happen, or was it another delusion? I
think that's all variations of. I think he changed it to make himself the good guy.
No, I mean, did he actually kill the psychiatrist, or was it a delusion?
Oh, I think he killed that psychiatrist.
Okay.
I think that's one of the only definite things we do know.
The fact that, to me, that it ended in the mental institution, I hated so much because, one, it does present that idea that none of it is real. It was all his imagination.
And that goes back to your point. You're saying that it doesn't want to take the level, the straight definitive.
Yeah, it doesn't want to extend. And I feel like that's just like some film school bullshit. Like, it was all in the guy's imagination.
Too much Inception.
And also the scene where he is on the car with his arms up and people are around him cheering. When that was happening, I was already pretty pissed off with this movie. I was already pissed off, but I was like, you know what? I don't like this movie. But if it ends with him and everybody cheering around him, I'm going to give it a point. And then it goes to black, and I'm like, okay. And then it ends up in the hospital. I'm like, you know what? Just fuck this movie. I can't stand this. So I feel like one of two things is happening there. One, it's all in his mind, and I feel like that is just such a beaten down theme, and half of the college thesis films that you will see this year, if you go to a college film festival, will be about that. Like, that's their favorite thing to do, is like, oh, it's all in the guy's mind. Or two, it's not in his mind, but Todd Phillips should be a better filmmaker to know that people are going to pick up that theme and run with it, and it's going to be obnoxious. And he had such a tailor-made ending with him on the car with people cheering around him. So, like, all around, I hate the ending.
So is that where you think it should have ended?
Yes, 100%. I feel like it should have.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like weird because the reason I look like with him laying on the car, that's what he's like reveling in the idea, because that's why I think that he believes that he is the protagonist, that he is a good guy, because he's sitting there reveling, and then all this stuff is happening to Bruce Wayne and his family at the same time. Like, yeah, I knew this was gonna happen.
See, I wish it had ended with him telling the therapist it's a joke you wouldn't get,
and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah,
that's where I wish it would have ended, and not with him doing the whole clown run with blood on his feet at the end.
Yeah, the only thing I'd hope they don't do is don't make Because the Joker in none of the novelization is the reason that Batman becomes Batman. Mm-hmm. That's why I believe that he thinks that he did it somehow in his mind to make him who he is.
Yeah, and that's when I asked the question of did this have to be a Joker origin story? It seemed like some of the Batman tie-ins were so forced. Like I hated the whole storyline of this could potentially be his half brother and.
Well, that's in the comics though.
That is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought it wasn't.
It's a storyline in the comics of. That it's teased that Joker and him are half brothers.
Okay, is that in some sort of alternate universe? Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So that's not far fetched, but it ended up not being true. But the Joker as a character, you don't know his origin.
Yeah,
that's what makes it beautiful of a character.
Yeah, and that has always been like my history and understanding from all this. You don't know, and the Joker kind of teases you with you know how he got the scars and whatever
all the time.
Right.
So, like, if that was created by design, is it not a fault to try to create a whole backstory for him?
Yeah, that's why I didn't like the idea of the movie. In the first place.
You know, I was talking to Raven the other day, but like the what this reminds me of is you've seen Halloween, the original Halloween, right? Yep. So the original Halloween comes out, and Michael Myers is just this embodiment of evil. He's this guy, and he literally has this plain white face. So whatever evil,
which is William Shatner's face,
is William Shatner's face, yeah. So whatever evil you see in the world, you see in his blank face, and he has no backstory. And then along comes Rob Zombie, and Rob Zombie doesn't realize that his lack of a backstory is by design and not a fault. And so Rob Zombie's like, "Oh, I'm going to fix this," and he creates this awful movie that really like explains his whole backstory, and it just kind of ruins the whole myth.
That's the one where he's like in a farm or something like that.
Yeah. Well, he was in a mental institution, and basically the whole what Rob Zombie says is Michael Myers because he grew up in a white trash family who beat him, and you know he doesn't really have anything interesting to say. And I feel like Joker isn't as bad as Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I feel like it has the same general fault that Todd Phillips sees that Joker doesn't have a backstory, and instead of realizing it's by design, he thinks it's a fault and he's going to fix it, and he tries to fix it, and
either
you're like,
that or I can make some money by trying to create something interesting.
I mean, he had a lot of bullshit to say about comic books and comic book movies too, so that's what really kind of pissed me off a lot too. He was saying like comic book movies are whack and those fans basically don't understand film.
Oh God.
Was he saying this when he was doing the press tour for this movie?
Yeah, the press tour like the week before the movie came out. And then he was talking about like he's moving away from comedies because nobody can get jokes anymore, stuff like that.
Which I remember he said that, and he said that in the woke culture things aren't funny anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, even if that's a true point, I don't think the guy who's made shitty movies like Due Date and Hangover 3 should be making that point, because it sounds like he's just saying, "Oh, I can't get my stuff financed anymore."
Right? People don't think I'm funny.
You just can't be creative enough to move around, and navigate the time period we're in to be funny.
Yeah. And the whole tour, the whole press tour he did was just terrible because he was also talking about Joker inciting violence, but then he was like, "Oh, there's other movies in the past like Taxi Driver, or Clockwork Orange, or Do the Right Thing that have incited violence." And even without seeing Joker, I was like, "Dude, you did not. You're fucking Todd Phillips. You did not make Do the Right Thing. You did not make Clockwork Orange. I don't even need to see this movie."
But it does give you a Clockwork Orange, another vibe of Clockwork Orange too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Clockwork Orange has more to say, but yeah, it kind of has a vibe. Go ahead.
So, what did you all think about that whole sort of controversy before the movie came out about it inciting violence or being...
incels. It was a whole incel thing.
Well,
you know,
what do you mean?
My incels. Mm-hmm. The involuntary celibate men.
Is that what it stands for?
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
So it's a whole community.
I've heard incel, but I didn't know that was the full...
that's what it means, involuntarily celibate.
Okay.
So they basically no one will have sex with them, so they're involuntarily celibate.
Which is a thing.
And they have a whole community on Reddit.
You know what? I don't want to take away from Joker, but there's a movie called Under the Silver Lake that came out earlier this year that is about the incel culture, and I highly recommend it. It's directed by the guy who did It Follows.
It Follows.
It's his follow-up movie. I think it's brilliant. I think it's as good as It Follows.
I've heard it's on my list of stuff to watch.
But yeah, because it had, I guess the Aurora, Colorado shooter was apparently influenced or dressed like a Joker or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, he was inspired by the shooting happened during the
Batman
during Dark Knight.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know much about that, but I mean, also just it's America, so there's a shooting every 2 days.
Yeah.
And so everybody's on high end about that, and then also because this movie's like invoking Taxi Driver, and Taxi Driver is the movie that allegedly got Reagan shot. So I mean, so there's a lot of just things going around. I think that kind of created this like whirlwind of paranoia.
I just wonder what that was based on, because I really didn't think the movie was that violent.
Yeah, I was waiting for some like crazy like decapitation or something.
Yeah.
And he'd walk around with his head on his head or something.
No,
Like-
it really was not that violent. He had like 2 violent kills. The dudes on the subway, and then I keep calling him Remus because that's who he was on Boardwalk Empire. But the dude in his apartment, like, that's it. Like, and somebody made an interesting comparison to Deadpool. Like, there was a hell of a lot more violence and gore and laughing about it. And, you know, there wasn't that much outrage on that.
I think it's because it's so serious. I think it's because it was a serious look. People think of it look serious.
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
a more serious world.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you know, it's Joaquin Phoenix. Oh my God, like you see old like 70, 80-year-old people going to the movie. I'm gonna check out this Joker because Joaquin Phoenix is in it, and then they go in there and they're like, oh snap.
Well, then say the movie is dark. Don't say it's violent, because it's not.
Yeah, but that's for older people. Dark is violent, so it's the same. Can be interchangeable. But shout out to my incels, man. That's some of the best reading that you'll ever get online is when they have all these like code words for different, because they're racist, they're sexist, they're like ageist, they're classist, they're everything, and they have like code words for different people. Like Tyrone means like a black guy. Mm-hmm. Like so, there's this one story I read on me and Matt's podcast, and it was like my mom was dating this Tyrone guy, and
Jesus.
and then my girlfriend left me for a Tyrone.
Okay, doesn't sound like anything I want to read.
Yeah, it's funny.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
But this movie had nothing to do with incels to me, though.
No, it actually did. Because I think people assumed it was. But, like, to say it's about insults, I think, to me, it says it's about anything. And I don't think it's about anything.
Just because he didn't have sex with nobody, you're not an incel. It didn't sound like he was trying to get none from nobody and they rejected it.
Well, have you heard that the original film, they cut some material out, and one of them was Zazie Beetz?
Yeah.
So you know, we're in full spoiler mode. So obviously he's imagining a relationship with her character.
Right.
But before he imagined it, in the original script, there was a scene where they actually went on a few dates. Like she actually went on some pity dates with him.
Oh,
and
where it was real.
Yeah, it was real before it went into the fantasy world. Okay. And apparently, in the original script, he sees her kissing another guy and goes to her daughter and starts screaming at her daughter that your mom's a whore. And that when that original script was floating around, people were saying that's more connected to the incel world. And I think Phillips heard that and he got rid of that shit because of that.
Did. That would have been a really silly, unnecessary, inconsistent with the plot.
Absolutely,
scene.
Yeah.
It would have dropped it down another half a point.
Oh yeah,
it would have dropped down to 1 for me.
Right,
down to 3. But overall, I think the movie was good, though. It was good. And Joaquin killed it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
As the Joker. And I didn't want to really know the Joker's real name. Like,
is that in the comics?
You don't know the Joker's real name.
Okay, so this is the first time you've heard Arthur Fleck?
I mean, he made that up. Like, okay. You don't know the Joker's name. He's just a Joker. He's just this dude who just causes havoc. And, like, you don't know where he came from, what he's doing. No motives. I just like to do stuff for fun. Mm-hmm. You know, but we can go through the movie a little bit. So in the beginning, did you all? Because they start us from the insane asylum or Arkham Asylum, which is weird if you know the comics. Arkham Asylum is where they put all of Batman's
nemesis,
rogues gallery. Yeah. You crazy or not, they just like bump it. Y'all running through the city doing crazy, doing stuff. We putting all y'all in Arkham Asylum. So he's there, and there's no way possible if this is a world where Batman is alive in this point, or any one period, that she would be in that room by herself with the Joker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, no way possible.
Some people were saying that was a nod to God, why am I forgetting her name now? She has another movie coming out. His girlfriend, Joker's girlfriend.
Oh, Harley Quinn?
Yes, thank you. Jesus Christ.
Oh, but Harley Quinn, that's all that stuff is fact that he met Harley Quinn at Arkham Asylum and basically flipped her. But she had armed guards around her for a long time until she was like, I'm comfortable now. And it was a big old cage, like in the movie, in the bad movie, what was the one they had? Suicide Squad.
Oh God, I hate that movie.
Yeah, so the thing where she's sitting in that big old cage in the middle of the floor, that's how she was talking. He was set up like that.
Okay.
When she met him. Okay. And, got with him or whatnot. So, yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, I just didn't like that them having this, and that's just me. That's why I say Todd Phillips is not a comic book guy, so he wouldn't have gotten those cues to know.
He should have consulted with somebody, though.
He probably just said, "Fuck y'all."
I'm not really sure what kind of guy Todd Phillips is. Like, I'm not really sure what he does.
Good guy, though.
I don't know what kind of filmmaker he is, because I don't think his comedies are particularly good, and apparently his comic book movies aren't particularly good.
I do like old school, though.
Old school is pretty funny, but I feel like Will Ferrell saves that. But anyways.
So what was your question on that scene? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so do you like, so when we're there and we're in the sand asylum, you kind of seeing him banging against the wall. Mm-hmm. At first, did you all think that was the present, or do you all think that, I thought at first that he got out of there and then we saw him as like basically his job on parole working as a clown.
That's the part of the story that's really confusing for me, but we do know that he was in an insane asylum at some point, which is why he was on parole or whatever. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to assume that it was before, because he's, at the end of the film, when he's back in Arkham, he's not banging his head on the wall. He's killing people. Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting. So the beginning is really the beginning.
Yeah.
And not the end as the beginning.
Right. Like at this point, when he's realized that his life is a comedy and not a tragedy, is there a reason for him to be banging his head on the wall? Maybe that's the point at which he becomes this intentional character.
That's interesting. 3.75 now, maybe. I like that. My skill is going to be constantly moving throughout this episode.
Yeah. And that was kind of what I assumed too. I didn't really think too much about that, because the themes in the movie annoyed me enough that I didn't really get too much into the plot and logistics. But what she said is kind of what I assumed too, that the beginning was kind of the end too.
So then we get the Joker is the clown. No, he's at home, and then he's building himself to be the clown, right? To go to work, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then he goes to the street, and
which is a really weird job. Like, what is that job? It's like a job where they outsource clowns. I never.
It's like a talent agency.
Like a temp service for clowns.
Yeah.
Why all the clowns are one temp agency?
Yeah.
I get that multiple jobs at the temp agency.
It's like a place that you go if you need clowns for anything.
Like, I need a clown, man. Go buy that clown temps.
Yeah, now I'm curious. I'm going to look up to see if there's a place that if I wanted to, I could have a clown come to a birthday party. You
probably can, but I would think it'd be just a talent agency, not necessarily a clown
agency.
And so we can see him there. So then, do you believe in him being sinister, or do you feel sorry for him at the beginning when he's kind of all this stuff is happening to him?
I was still trying to figure him out at that point. I don't know if I felt sorry for him then, but I did start to.
See, but that's the thing. Well, I think if he could turn the corner, this is what Joker wants you to feel sorry for everything. He if knowing what I said about how he interacts, I think it'll change a lot of people's ideas. But at the same time, Todd Phillips didn't make it stick.
I don't think the Joker cares how we feel about him. I think he wants us to acknowledge that who he is now is a result of the way he was treated, but I don't think he cares about whether or not we feel sorry or sad for him.
Good point. That's a good point. We don't know this Joker character, period. Mm-hmm. Like he's that's the point of him. That's why he's so sinister.
But even at the end of this film, that's not what I got from it. I think he's like, this is who I am now, and accept the hell that I'm gonna rain upon you because of it.
And my thing is like, man, he's got a lot of soldiers early. Like day one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But do you feel, and we talked about this, but do you feel like when he is that way at the end, that it was society who brought him to that point, or how much do you think it was society who made him turn into this thing, and how much was it what he brought to the table, and how much of it his own illness?
I think it's all of the above.
All of these is a combination of all.
Yeah, I mean, because we all suffer shitty things in our lives, but we don't all turn into murderers and psychopaths. So I think that the mental illness plays into it too, but I think we do have to acknowledge the way that we can trigger people.
Yeah, I mean, and I wonder if this movie was made 10 years ago, because we're really big into mental illness right now in society, which is good. But I wonder if it was 10 years before, would people really be into this as much for the mental illness aspect?
Would people be acknowledging it?
Yeah,
or discussing
oh man,
it?
This is good because they're talking about mental illness.
So I'm trying to figure out your question.
So
here,
like, because like there's a major sticking point, and people are saying like, yeah, this is what happens when someone has mental illness, and they can go, these things can happen, and we need to protect them and need to make sure people are okay.
I don't know if people necessarily think that this film handles the discussion about mental illness responsibly, but I will say that 10 years ago, I don't even know if we would have been discussing it, period.
That's what I mean. Okay. Yeah.
So I'll say that I think it handles mental illness in a way that I don't really learn anything about mental illness from the movie. I feel like it's always just like a plot device, or it's always just like a motivator for the Joker, but the movie's not really interested in figuring out what mental illness means. And I think about Taxi Driver. And have you seen this? Okay. So what I love about Taxi Driver, and I'm just going to get into Taxi Driver spoilers.
I mean, it's been out 40 years.
Yeah, it's been 40 years. What Taxi Driver is so great about is Travis Bickle has this whole idea that he's going to kill this senator, and it doesn't. And like his motive is to be somebody. Like he needs to be somebody, and the way to be somebody, if you're angry and lonely like he is to kill a politician. So he wants to kill a politician. Yeah, he become infamous, but he can't do it. He can't kill the politician. So what he does is he ends up getting into a gunfight with a pimp instead.
Right.
So
he becomes a vigilante.
Yeah, he becomes a vigilante, and that's what I love so much about the end of Taxi Driver, because I take the end of Taxi Driver as this like act of futility, where it's this guy who wanted to be something, and you know what? You're not. You're just a guy who shot a pimp, and that's all you are. But there's also like this.
And get back on your route. I mean, get back on your, and he's back on his regular.
Have you heard the whole discussion? People always wonder if he died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he gets shot by Harvey Keitel's character. He gets shot. But then he immediately, the movie ends with him in the I know you haven't seen it, Raven, so I'm just totally spoiling.
No, I have seen it. I just haven't seen it as an adult.
So he's in the taxi, again driving, and his dream girl gets in the back, and it feels kind of like a dream. So a lot of people have discussed that ending,
kind of like the end of 25th Hour with.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, that's the whole of the discussion. But what I'm saying is, like, what I loved about Taxi Driver is the movie felt like mental illness. Like this, it was this movie that followed no logical paths, and it was this guy who was just destined to be this thing, and he wasn't. And a lot of times, mental illness results in illogical violence. It results in things that don't make sense. And I think that's the problem that I kind of have with it, and a lot of people have with Joker, is they use mental illness as a way for him to climb to this point. And I think people are like, you know what, the way you're using mental illness is just, it's irresponsible, because you're not interested in saying anything about it. It's just the only motivating factor that you have. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of agree with that.
That's a good point, Raven. That's what I was saying. Like, would we even be discussing it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we would.
It's a hot button topic right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, back to what I was kind of saying before, I don't know if this is necessarily a responsible handling of the discussion either, or if that was the intention, which is why I had a little bit lower rating for it. But I do appreciate that it is sparking some discussion.
Yeah, definitely. How you all think about the Joker's mother? How she's portrayed, how she is... is she reliable? Is what she's saying all lies? Is some of this true? And Thomas Wayne, is she just as crazy as her son?
Go.
So first of all, I'll say I love Frances Conroy. Mm-hmm. I love her on American Horror Story, and I love her playing this character. The mom is just fucking annoying to me, and I don't know how to take her. And I'm really annoyed by them making him adopted. Because I don't know how that serves the plot, especially if it's supposed to be this sort of nature versus nurture thing we're supposed to get from this relationship. Because if they're not related, then it's nurture. I don't know. Either way, I just didn't understand that point. I think it's
feeding into the idea that you still don't know. It gives you a mysticism of still not knowing Joker's origin.
Right. You still don't know who his parents are. So I just don't think that her story added any. I don't think her being crazy added anything for me. To his origin story, if that's the point of the movie. I was just annoyed by her.
Just plain and simple annoyed.
Yeah, I was annoyed by her.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I didn't really think too much about it, because the movie didn't really interest me too much into her character. But I think it was like this line that was kind of unanswered, and I don't think it was unanswered in an interesting way. Like, I feel like a film can be ambiguous ambiguity. It can present ambiguity in an interesting way, but it can also present it in a way that is just like a bad filmmaker doesn't know what he's doing or what he's saying. And I feel like she was either institutionalized because they were gaslighting her, because someone as powerful as Thomas Wayne could essentially gaslight her in that sense. Or maybe she really was that mentally ill. I think her actions that you see in the film probably points to the fact that she probably was that mentally ill. And I feel like this is the movie that shows you everything. I don't feel like this movie... I mean, it does show you everything. There's parts where the Joker's mental illness is very just handheld and very just drawn out. So in that sense, I feel like you have to kind of take the film as... everything it's saying is exactly what it is, and there's not really much interpretation. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I feel like she probably was insane, because I don't think the film is smart enough to really get into subjects like rich people gaslighting people like her.
Mm-hmm.
Or did it make her crazy from being in an insane asylum because of Thomas Wayne?
Yeah,
it's possible.
I don't know. So I look at it as the whole story is told from his perspective. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know one way or the other, because there were some delusions, but then all of his delusions were explained too.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it was a delusion, I agree with Paul. I think every question you could have had about anything that would have made her character interesting was answered.
Yeah.
So it could have been an interesting storyline for her delusions to be true, that, Thomas Wayne really was his dad. But then he goes to where, what's his name? Brian, I can't remember his name, from Atlanta.
Brian Terry Center, is that it?
Yeah, yes, where working at the mental hospital,
which was
violating
awful
HIPAA
scene
on so many levels.
It was such an awful scene, because he pulls the folder out and he's like, "I can't do this."
Yeah,
and
after you read everything in it, but I can't physically give it to
Raven
you.
kept on saying, she was like, that's illegal. Like, you can't just give out medical information.
He wouldn't have even gone and dug through the archives for this folder.
And that's something where you
he was back there for a while too, because that was so long ago. You had to really put in some work.
And that's one of those things you can tell the writer is like, "Oh, I don't know how to get this file in Joker's hand, so I'm going to make this character say, here you go. Oh wait, never mind, I can't do this." And then he takes it from him.
So it was just that was really silly. So what I was saying is, anything that you could have been a lingering question and been interesting, I think they answered with that by giving him the folder. So I think we know from him having the folder, even though we don't know if the Joker is a reliable narrator, that his mom was fucking nuts.
And I feel like to go off that note, there are times that the Joker has delusions, but whenever it happens in the movie in an incredibly insulting way just holds your hand and explains to you the situation. Like the fact that he and Zazie Beetz' relationship was a delusion. When that first started, I was like, "Oh, this can be interesting." Because I really hope the movie doesn't answer this. I hope the movie just shows the relationship, and it seems kind of ridiculous, and that's all it is. And there'll be something you can discuss afterwards. I was like, "Please don't answer it. This is real." And then, sure enough, because it's Todd Phillips, he does answer it. So he has the Joker go over to her place, and she's like, "Oh, you're the guy down the hall." And it's like, okay, all right, this is kind of...
And then it shows you everywhere.
And then it fucking shows you, like Fight Club. It just goes through and shows you everything. And I was like, this movie thinks it's smart, but it thinks its audiences are idiots. It thinks the audience is an idiot.
He could have stopped there.
Yeah, and so the fact that it shows you... And also...
She wasn't in all the places.
Yeah,
right.
And also earlier with De Niro, when he pulls the Joker, pulls Arthur Fleck on the stage. Yeah, that's another time. So to me, every single time that a delusion is happening... It is shown. It is Todd Phillips spoon feeding the audience. This is what's happening, and because of that, because he does that, I'm not gonna give the film any credit that any of the other stuff that's happening might just be in his imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree, and I think it would have been such a better movie if we stuck with him always being the narrator. Instead of going off that script and then doing these sort of flashback scenes that he was not involved in.
That's a good point. Do you all think that he killed Zazie Beetz?
That's the one thing I appreciate him not clarifying.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't think he did, though.
Only reason I did kind of think he did is because they had like an ambulance or something like in the background when he was sitting there by himself afterwards.
I think he did because I think she would have called the police if he didn't. And I also hate. I disagree. Like I hate that scene because I don't feel like that's the Joker. I feel like that's the director telling you it doesn't matter if he killed her or not. And I feel like that's the director saying this woman, not only does she really get much of an agency or a personality because she's seen through his point of view most of the time, but we don't even get to know the outcome of her. And every other kill that happens in the movie,
you get to see the outcome.
Yeah, see, even at the end when he's walking with blood on his footprints, but for some reason she's the only character who doesn't get that, and I don't know why he did that. I don't know what the point of that is.
Because she might have a contract that says she can be in a future movie. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Zazie Beetz comes back as Domino in this one.
I guess. I mean, she's already in Deadpool.
Did you guys see Velvet Buzzsaw?
Oh, what is that?
She's Jake Gyllenhaal's crazy character's girlfriend, and she really needs to stop being the girlfriend of crazy guys.
What is it called?
Velvet Buzzsaw. It was a Netflix movie that came out earlier this year.
Oh heck yeah! I'm gonna have to watch that. I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, I'm saving it right now on my Netflix.
It's kind of funny because that's 2 movies this year that she was a crazy dude's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was like, why didn't I show like if they showed everything else? Why didn't they show what happened with Zazie Beetz?
Mm-hmm. I think it's bad filmmaking. I don't see what the point of it is. Like I don't understand why she gets the. I mean, maybe the film thinks it's too cruel to acknowledge that she was killed, but I don't know. The movie's just to me the movie's a series of half-baked ideas, and I don't know what that means exactly.
What did you think, Daryl?
I thought she got killed, but Zazie Beetz' character, it's a good delusion. I like the delusion of her being a delusion for him, and it kind of flips you up on understanding that she's crazy though. Mm-hmm. I mean that he really is mentally not stably there, but it also gives him an excuse for going off the rails of like, oh, this all wasn't really anyway. Mm-hmm. So now I have an excuse to be a dick and go start killing some more people. Yeah.
So the main reason I don't think he killed her is because every other kill had a purpose. And she was not somebody that was unkind to him or put him in a self-defense place. Okay. And he hadn't gotten to the point where he had completely lost his mind at that time. So that's kind of what I'm going off of.
Yeah, I mean, I just try to figure out what was her purpose though, in the film. I mean, I guess it was to show that he had made this selection, but I just felt like they could have gave her a little more agency though, maybe in the film. Yeah, I mean, they could have given her more meaning, any agency. Yeah, like some kind of meaning. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure like what that meaning means. Yeah, but something where I'm just not like, oh, okay, I guess that's okay, yeah, that was all a dream. Because I kind of had a feeling like that was before, because when she was like way too nice to him. I'm not saying that woman could be nice to him, but it was like she was just like. Well, she was nice to him after he stalked her, and like already, like if you are an astute enough film watcher, you've already seen that he has these delusions because of the scene with De Niro, and he goes on his stage and blah, blah, blah. And then you have that where she takes this complete 180 where she accepts a guy who's stalking her, which most women would not do. And already right there, everything you need to know is there. It's already laid out.
Yeah, and you already know it doesn't make any sense.
And like the sex scene, though, I guess their sex scene, he just barges in and just starts kissing her and like, whoa, bro, like that's not how real life happens. Like, like that's literally how someone in a movie would think that a love scene would go. Like in their dreams, like, man, this is how I wish I could just walk in and do that. Just push open the door on his own.
and that felt like that moment where he was that. I guess it was after that he killed the bankers, right? Or he killed the businessman after that. Yeah, and that was like his moment of finally like taking control. And at that point, I almost like that she was. I guess. I mean, I don't like either option. It's just bad writing both ways. But I feel like at least being his delusion, it wasn't just a woman that he is able to devour as a celebration for killing these guys. At least it was part of his imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's talking about the banker kill, you kind of felt like that was self-defense at first. It made it feel like self-defense more.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. I wonder if you look at reality Joker, was it not even like that? He just went there and just smoked them guys, and they were just riding the train home from work.
Well,
but he made it into like a self-defense thing.
In a smarter movie, I think that would be that would be something. That would be. I wish we watched a movie that we could talk about that, but I don't feel like it's this movie.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm adding stuff into it, like be kind of cool. Like,
if it had been this,
the movie you're describing sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Look, I did a great Joker origin film. You wouldn't know nothing about him.
I don't know, but his first kill had to start somewhere.
Yeah,
and I'm not that bothered by his initial motivation being because of shitty shit that keeps happening to him. I'm not that bothered by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered your original
question.
It was
kind of, you guys ever seen Falling Down?
Yes.
It kind of reminds you like the moment in Falling Down where he just gets fed up and like...
Yeah, and I hate Falling Down. It's awful. Falling Down is one of it's one of these movies that just like justifies this like really average middle-aged...
Like History of Violence.
Yeah, well, History of Violence is interesting because I think there's implications for the character and there's consequences, but Falling Down is a movie that is like really... just behind him the whole time, and it's interesting you bring that up because I feel like Joker wants to be taxi driver, but it's really falling down, and it can't get into the moral complexities that taxi driver gets into. So it's really more of a straightforward tale of a guy who's abused and needs to get revenge as falling down
into
is
the world. And this vendetta with Thomas, that's why I think that it could have been spaced out well, and it was a great premise, the hate for Thomas Wayne and how that is his fuel, and like, well, yeah, the reason that he don't like me is his daddy was bad to everybody, and I was going to expose him. You know, if it was been kind of that kind of thing of like, I knew that his dad was up to no good, that's why he wants to get me. Like something like that where the Joker has some kind of motivation, you know, besides just this, because it'd have been a deeper plot if he was like, yeah, and that's why I hate the Waynes. Something like that, I think could have encompassed it better, and it was like a lot of good movie sitting up under there. Mm-hmm. What do you all think about him even getting the gun in general? You know,
like how he got it from Remus.
Plot. I mean, there's just a plot moving forward.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense.
You know what? It goes back to what you said at the beginning, though, because in my mind, I can make it up in this script and do some re-edits where and you go through and you find out that he just stole the gun, but he just makes a whole thing of that this guy gave it to him and he bought it from him, but he really stole it.
Yeah.
And like this becomes this long thing where it could have been this long prose of all these different evil things he did, but he made itself or made you believe that as the listener to the story that this is what happened.
Yeah, that sounds more interesting.
I feel like he just it was. I think it was bad writing on that. Like he needed a reason to have beef with Remus.
Yeah, because that was like a real weak beef for me to kill him.
Yeah. When he killed him, like I had to go back through their history, and I was like, wait, well, why is he doing this?
Mad?
Yeah. Why did he kill him? Because that's why I thought he was going to kill the little man. Because I just thought he was just killing anybody in general. I thought he's just on overload mode. I'm just killing anybody. Yeah. Like I didn't think it was morality to it.
Can I also, while we're on this subject, the whole thing with the little man.
Yes.
Okay. First of all,
that was funny.
I'm not gonna lie.
That was funny.
I did laugh at it. I did laugh.
It was the only moment of light in the entire movie.
But what fucks me up is it's the only moment of laughter. But then afterwards, I thought of it, and I was like, this is a movie that says that Joker became the Joker because everybody kind of laughed at him and everybody stomped down at him and picked on him, and that's the message of the movie, I guess. But while you have this movie, then this movie also has a little person that the movie makes fun of. I was like, so this movie's trying to give this like really unclear message not to pick on people below you, while it picks on this guy. and I did laugh at it, but afterwards,
that part was funny.
Yeah, because afterwards I was like, what's the point of this?
Because I kind of, it's kind of messed up to a certain extent. Because one of my homies said, man, you just seen too many movies. Because I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen. Like, when he's coming around the corner, like, yo, that top lock is going to be locked.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the chain on it,
like,
yeah.
That's what I would think would be funny, if you had the top chain lock.
Yeah.
And he can't get out, and he's got like, hey, man, can you let me out?
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to stick him, though. I was probably thinking, like, I'm going to tease you out. So then that it makes sense to me of them killing Remus, though. Like, I would have needed a little bit more of an egregious Remus, because Remus sounded like he kind of looked out for him in general.
But he didn't, though, because
because the cops came and he was like, nah, you know.
Yeah, and then he, instead of saying, like, I don't know, it was, the whole thing was messy. That was the most suspenseful part of the movie for me, though. Where I was like, oh my God, please don't.
It was like the only part it was interesting. It was the only part there was any suspense whatsoever. I thought that in the girlfriend scene with Zazie Beetz. But besides that, this movie was like really like lacking of any sort of suspense at all or any sort of like consequences.
So let's go into his big scene with Robert De Niro in the comedian situation where he was like supposed to be this comic. All right, actually, we can go back to him trying to do comedy at first when we find out that Zazie Beetz wasn't there for real at all. And it goes maybe back to bad writing, and you really put the kind of linchpin because I was like, man, did he think he was really funny? And this guy is basically exposed him, where he was like, yo, I was really funny, but you just don't like it. Yeah.
It seemed like if, since the movie walked us through and it saw that Zazie Beetz was his imagination, I guess you can say that scene, even though he was bombing, in his mind, he was killing it because she was she was laughing. So that's what he was seeing. Yeah. So yes, I think that he thought he was doing well, and especially like later on when De Niro's trashing him on the TV, it seemed like a shock. It seemed like a surprise to him.
And who had the secret camera in there?
Yeah.
And
especially
I know
that was like, you know how big of a camera you'd have to have.
I was thinking, well, I mean, so comedy shows probably were recorded, so I wasn't that bothered by that. But I have no doubt that.
Like this wasn't like
I don't know.
This wasn't Eddie Murphy.
Well, no, I mean you see old material of like comics, doing a stand up like.
Yeah, but these are guys that are pretty well known people. Though.
But I thought, I think some of it is footage when they weren't well known. Is my point.
That's true.
But no, I mean I have no doubt that people were laughing at him. They just were laughing at him, not at his jokes. So he may have perceived that too, as them thinking that he was funny. Instead of pitiful.
During that scene, my buddy leaned over and he was like, "Still better than Dane Cook." During his bombing of his comedy. But anyways,
true though.
It was true. But yeah. So I think in his mind, he killed it. I think.
And do you all think that one of the dopest parts of this film though was his joke book to me?
Yeah, I actually liked the joke book too.
I like the joke book.
Yeah.
And the idea where he said like, people only what does it say, like people only understand me when I die, or like people will respect me more when I'm dead, or I'll live more when I'm dead.
He said, I just hope my death makes more sense or my life make more. Hang on, let me get it. I have it. I just hope my death makes more sense than my life.
You said my life makes more sense.
He said, I just hope my death makes more sense than my life. And sense was spelled like CENTS, like money.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, is that he really died when he became the Joker, becoming this other guy. So that's why he's like, it makes sense now. I am the joke.
Yeah. So what do you think the purpose of spelling sense was? Instead of spelling it SENSE, which would have been the proper way to spell it, why does he spell it like CENTS?
I don't know. That's a good question. I couldn't figure that one out.
Paul took a bathroom break. We can circle back to him when he comes back.
Did you see from him with that?
With referring.
Did you see anything where people were saying anything about what that meant?
No, I didn't. I didn't look that up. My interpretation of it was taking it back to some sort of to I guess the political message that it was trying to send about the rich not really caring about the money. Right. Yeah. The rich not really caring about people with mental health issues, or not really caring about the poor. So maybe in my death I can get your attention.
That'll make sense because then it means the aristocrats, everyone else will know
right.
who I am and who we are.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing is that they could have really amped up Gotham City because Gotham City is like a shithole in general. And then you can even amp up because really Batman is an asshole in general himself.
Yeah.
Like the idea of Batman, I'm this rich dude, I'm going to go up and beat the shit out of people at night. And I'm going to beat the shit out of you enough where just before you die, but not let you die so you can be locked up. And then hope you get out before I go whoop your ass again.
Yeah.
Like, he's just as equally fucked up as the Joker.
All of these people have delusions of grandeur.
Yes. And the I mean, and like this is the Joker's film. In general, I don't think we needed a Joker origin film in general, period. So that's what part of my score was kind of wavered, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. I say that.
Paul, do you have any input on that? We were just talking about what when you said, "I hope, my death makes more sense than my life." What that meant?
No, I hated all the Joker's quotes because I felt like all the Joker's quotes were very much kind of spelling out the film to the movie. But while we're on Gotham, I think that was one thing that I really hated about the way that they depicted Gotham. And I think that really got into the politics of the movie, if it's okay we talk about that. Is that it shows Gotham as this place where everyone is sort of like equally evil. And it doesn't matter like what walk of life you're from, you're equally evil. And I feel like that might seem like a deep point of view to somebody, but in reality, it's the kind of point of view that doesn't really say anything at all. And I feel like...
But that's how Gotham is kind of set up in the comics too, though.
Yeah, I mean, so if that's what he's doing, if he just wants to make...
But now, once again, I don't think he read the comics. So
he didn't read the comics. And if he wants to make a comic movie, make a comic movie. But he wanted to make... Like, essentially what Todd Phillips does with this movie is he makes an urban grime film. So, like that was like the subgenre that was big in the 70s and the 80s. And he makes this urban grime film. And there were all kinds of like great examples of those kinds of movies back in those days, but they always like said something about what was happening. And what was interesting is like there was always like a politics behind all of those films. So when you think of the urban grime films, you think of like the ultimate like right wing urban grime movie is Death Wish, and it's this movie where the protagonist is justified in what he does, and his family is killed and his wife is raped by people that he's going to get revenge on. And then the ultimate, I think, the left-wing version of it is Taxi Driver, where the protagonist is the villain, and it shows this guy as somebody who's insane and somebody who is more of a loose cannon and more of a danger than the people who are trying to go after. Yeah, he's going after. And I feel like that one's more of a commentary. I feel like what Todd Phillips wants to do is be both of those movies, but what he ends up doing is being neither of those movies. So he makes this movie that's so politically weak and it's so like free of commentary that it's this movie that is like it says that like everybody is equally bad, which in itself is, I think, it's just kind of a lame statement. But you have the business guys who attack Joker on the subway, but you also have the minority kids who attack him at the beginning, and you have the woman on the subway who's rude to him. You have like everybody is like equally bad. You have this kind of Trump prototype in Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, and then you also have the protesters, and the protesters are carrying resist signs, right? And that's not a mistake, right? Everything that's in a movie is planned and framed and lit and shot. So it's not like an extra bought a resist sign. Todd Phillips intentionally did that, but these protesters are terrible also. Right. And it was like this point. It felt to me like I'm a political science major, and it felt to me like it was like this like kind of like centrist person whose only point they can make is like both sides are equally bad, and they think that they're making a deep point, but in reality they're making a really lazy point, and they're making a point that doesn't help anybody. And that's what I felt like this movie was. That you go into this movie and you're gonna see Gotham, and you're gonna see the people in it. And no matter what you feel going into it, you're just going to feel that stronger. So
that's a good point. That's a good point.
And like I feel like it's a movie. I read a review where the movie says it's somehow right wing, left wing, and anti right wing and anti left wing. It's like this movie that's just like this shotgun of political ideas that goes in a whole bunch of different directions.
Yeah, because it's kind of attacking everybody.
Yeah,
to a certain extent.
It is attacking everybody, but I don't think, in my opinion, today the answer of a movie is to attack everybody equally, because I feel like there's a cause to our problems that are happening right now, and I feel like I personally feel like it's Trump and his bullshit, and I feel like for this movie to say, oh well, you are bad to Trump, but also say like, oh but the other guys are bad too, everybody's bad, I think they're kind of falling into these like talking points that is this way to kind of spread the problem around when I don't think the problem of today needs to be spread around. I think the problem is pretty singular.
Singular route. So you're looking at it more of the idea of like have a stance and stick in that stance, either if you're going to do the left or the right. Yeah. Just stick in it.
Pick one of the two. Don't try to please both.
And trying to please everybody. Basically almost trying to please everybody.
Yeah, he's trying to please everybody. And that's what I hate about this movie, is that the movie thinks it's smart. It thinks it's grimy. It thinks that it's like a real different movie from other comic movies, but it's really just cowardly in the fact that it won't take a stance. And if you want to take the Death Wish stance and you want to be a right-wing movie, I'll criticize you for making a right-wing bullshit movie, but at least you took a stance. Yeah. But this movie will not do that. Like, it's just like this movie that doesn't have anything to say. And Joker actually says in the movie, I'm not political. Yeah. And every single time he said that, he said it a couple times. Yeah. And every single time he said that, I was like, dude, that's the director just hiding behind. like the director just scared. And the director's like, I'm not political. I'm not making any points, blah, blah, blah. And he's hiding behind
the Joker, the character.
Yeah, film. Exactly. So that honestly is the thing that just pisses me off the most of this movie, is getting credit for being different than other comic movies. But in reality, it's not. I mean, it's actually like more cowardly than other comic movies, because even like comic movies take a stand, and this one won't take a stand at all.
Yeah. The thing that pissed me off a little bit about Todd Phillips is he basically said he called Joaquin Phoenix, was like, yo, I got a way we could do a dope movie and get the funding for it or whatever, and just go under the comic book guys. That was basically what he said. He basically tricked DC into doing it. Yeah. By saying like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get Joaquin Phoenix. And we don't have anything. We don't have to do anything tied to anything that's going on with the DCEU. We just do our own thing.
Well, wasn't it originally supposed to be Scorsese and DiCaprio?
It was supposed to be Scorsese producing.
And then, but Leo was set to play the Joker, because that was the first rumor I heard.
But that Joker was going to be in the Joker going forward too, though.
Oh, in the Robert Pattinson movies. Yeah. Okay.
Which I wouldn't mind seeing this Joker with Robert Pattinson and later farther on down the line.
I don't know how they do that. With the huge age difference.
Well, this is the 80s. This was the Robert Pattinson's in the 90s. It's placed in the 90s.
Oh, is it? I didn't know.
It's placed in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But he's still a child. Robert Pattinson is in his early 30s, right?
Yeah, but this is 81. This movie is 81.
So he's going to be like...
This be like 95, so he'll be like... he'll be like 26, 27. It's like very beginning Batman.
Okay, but I'm talking about in this movie right here. This is supposed to be what, like 91? Is it?
No, this movie's 81.
This 81. Okay, so 81.
He's like 11 or 12.
Okay, so he's 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm. And then the next one's 95, so I'm saying he's 25 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think that would be interesting as long as Matt Reeves directs it and they take it away from Todd Phillips.
Matt Reeves is doing the whole thing. Yeah. Matt Reeves got
as long as they put Matt Reeves, if they put, but also like Joaquin has to, I guess, drop 80 pounds every time he does a role. I mean, I feel like it's physically taxing.
He's actually better actor than people think too.
Well, no, because he's not on. Because I did think about that. He's not going to be on antipsychotics anymore, and so that was one of the things that I read about why he was asked to lose so much weight, because he's supposed to be on these drugs. If he's not taking them anymore, he can gain the weight.
Yeah, I mean, if he can gain the weight, he'll be good to go. If he can gain it.
But he's already gained it back.
Yeah.
But this movie is like so small scaled in its violence and what it does. Like the only people he kills are just like, losers. Like I can't picture this guy, like this Joker. He wins in the world that he's in that grimy underground New York world, but I can't imagine this guy taking on someone like Batman. At least from this universe, I can't.
You don't think it'll be
like, I feel like the Joker at the end of the movie, whatever, he can kill a female psychiatrist. Okay, good for you. But like that guy then taking on Batman, I don't feel like would be much of a fight whatsoever.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna time hop 15 years, I guess a lot could happen.
Yeah.
For him between
them. No, I think you can. I mean, they already look like they're gonna have the Penguin as the main character in the first one.
Well, I mean, okay, so then just going back to what I know about the Joker movies, like he's not like he's never like getting into fist fights with Batman. They're all set up like jokes and like booby traps.
He can't fight though. He can't fight. He just tries to use different other things to try to even it out a little bit. Like, I'm gonna get some of this smoke in your face, make you go crazy where you're seeing some different psychedelic shit. Yeah. But he'll fight you though.
But I mean, even if he doesn't fight and he just coordinates people to fight, do you think the Joker at the end of this movie is any sort of entity that could take on a superhero?
I think he's just realizing his power.
Yeah.
And that was something that I kind of liked. If we believe that the scene where he has his arms stretched out on the cop car, I think he's realizing his influence.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could put him in. So before we let's get into the last big titular scene with him and Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah.
On his coup de grace, and do you? I was wondering, like, I don't know. I think it would have been more fitting maybe if Robert De Niro's character gave him the nickname the Joker directly to his face. It's like, you call me the Joker. That's what I want to come out as. It'd be directly like, he'd be like, you should come out as the Joker.
And like Robert De Niro coming up with the idea instead?
Like, you should come out as the Joker. And he'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of forced.
That would be more
because
interesting.
he said it already. And he was like, I said that? Like, that made it like, oh, wow, he didn't even know he said it. It'd be different if he'd be like, you are a Joker, man. You should come out to that name. How about that?
Yeah, I think I would have preferred that too.
Or he introduced it to him, like maybe he came back later to Mark Maron's character and be like, hey, I'm going to come out as the Joker. And I like what his suggestion.
Yeah, I think that would be better. Also, Maron was like barely in this thing.
Yeah,
I heard I heard he didn't want to be in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I can't. There was just like one of the trivia notes I read on IMDb that he didn't really want to be.
You know what's funny is Phillips has been complaining about woke culture. You can't do comedies, and Maron's been one of the guys who's been fighting back against it. And Maron's been like, actually, there's a really funny people who are working right now, and they can work around the perimeters.
Yeah, exactly, because you're funny. You can work around stuff that's if the culture is moving this way, if you're smart enough, you work around the way the culture's moving.
But Mark Maron plugged Glow. Have you guys watched Glow?
No
I love it. I love it. You should watch it. Glorious Ladies of Wrestling.
Yeah, I used to watch it as a kid. I used to watch it on Channel 30.
But to get back to that last scene, I think my problems with that scene are one. I think De Niro's like really like bored in this movie. I think De Niro. I don't know what it is. I think Joaquin's great, but everyone else looks really bored, which makes me think that Joaquin just brought his performance and kind of did his own thing, and Todd Phillips can't direct anyone else. But
you said Joaquin basically brought it. It's like having like LeBron James on your team, and
exactly.
And you're the coach, and it's like he's gonna drop 32, but I got to coach these other guys.
Yeah, these other guys, and I can't. And when it's Todd Phillips, you can't coach other guys. and so like I think Joaquin is excellent in it, but I give no credit whatsoever to Todd Phillips about that, because everyone else. I mean, how do you direct a bad performance from Robert De Niro? That's impressive, but he manages to do it, and I feel like that final scene, De Niro is kind of sleepy in it, and I just felt like the scene was just false. Like the whole argument they had was false, and then they did things that you're like told not to do in like writing class. Like you're not supposed to like say things to each other that the audience has already seen. So when Joaquin's like, you laughed at me, you made fun of me on TV, I was like, we've already seen that, you don't need to explain that. and I don't know, that whole scene, and then when he shoots him at the end of that scene, I was already just so annoyed with it. Then I was just like,
I wish he had just skipped all that.
And just
shot him in the head.
Yeah, it just made it over.
Because we understood I agree with you. We understood as an audience at that point why he was doing what he was doing. He could have saved that whole back and forth, situation. Especially since I know like censorship wasn't what it is now, and like there's the time delay. But that whole conversation, that back and forth, still I don't think would have happened.
That'd have been something somebody said like happened in some outtakes. Like, man. Don Rickles got into it with Johnny Carson. Nobody knew about it because they cut off the cameras.
Yeah.
That's what it would have happened in 81. Like,
well, I'm just talking about the whole, like, Robert De Niro even entertaining the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they just stop it and call the police? Like, why did this guy who the city has been looking for admit to the crime? And,
and then you have a 5-minute conversation after that.
Trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, why are the police even acknowledging that this conversation needs to happen? Why aren't the police just storming the stage?
And then even then, like, me as a talk show host, and I'm even just thinking, like, if I'm deposing somebody and they admit to me that they murdered somebody and they're about to tell me why, I'm on my way out.
Right.
I don't really care about why you did it. I don't want to hear it. Like,
dude, I mean, that's like what, and he's admitting, like, I killed all those guys. And it's like, whoa. I didn't, like, I think any host would be like, hey, we're gonna be right back.
Yeah, exactly. And be like, I don't know if I should believe you or not. And the fact that De Niro just believes him right away, and he's like, okay, let's. Yeah,
and first of all, I'd be like, come on, man, quit playing. Be like, no, I really did it. And maybe if he gave me some deal, hey, hold on, y'all, we'll be right back. We'll be right back with the late show.
Yeah.
Bring out anybody got who's the animal person, like everybody thinks animals, like somebody brings animal people, bring them out.
Crocodile Hunter, is he popular then?
Yeah, but Joaquin Phoenix did a stellar job.
He sold what he was given.
Y'all think he's gonna get nominated for?
I think he will be nominated. I don't know if he'll win.
I don't think he'll win. I saw this before I saw this. The two best male performances I think I've seen this year are Leo from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Kelvin Harris Jr. from Loose. And I think that Joaquin's good, but I don't think he's necessarily better than those two. I think he's just kind of in the mix.
And the circling.
Yeah, and then there's like all kinds of like performances that have kind of hit the festival circuit that people are like really talking about. And you have The Irishman that comes out next month
on Netflix.
Yeah, and that's De Niro. I mean, talking about De Niro. Yeah, Pacino. Yeah, but De Niro's the one I'm hearing that might be nominated. There's this movie called Marriage Story that's doing pretty well, and Adam Driver's the main star of that.
Oh, okay, I love Adam Driver.
And so it's directed by Noah Baumbach, and it sounds fascinating because Noah Baumbach right now is married to Greta Gerwig, but he used to be married to Jennifer Jason Leigh, and he and Jennifer Jason Leigh had a really amicable divorce. And the movie is about their divorce, and even though he's married to Greta Gerwig now, Jennifer Jason Leigh like signs off on this movie, and she says that this movie really displays that they're peaceful.
Yeah, I heard it really talks about a real breakup from a real place.
And it sounds fascinating. And I hear that Driver's great. And then Adam Sandler might be nominated because he's got the new Safdie Brothers movies, which is called Uncut Gems. The Safdie Brothers who did Good Time with Robert Pattinson. Yeah. So there are like a lot of good performances that are coming out, and I think that Joaquin will be in the mix, but I don't think he's going to be the front runner to win.
Yeah, the only reason I would think maybe he would win is because this will be the 4th time he would be nominated by the Academy. Maybe they feel like they owe him something.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right. Yeah.
But he's so young for that. I don't know.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I mean, I saw somebody, man, getting real egregious. He's been living on River Phoenix his life, his whole career.
That's
I was like, oh man, that's low, man.
He's surpassed that.
Yeah. I mean, you could have said that 25 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, but he's been killing it. Like, I remember when I went to see Walk the Line, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I didn't give a fuck about Johnny Cash, but this makes me give a fuck about him. I downloaded some Johnny Cash right after that. Like,
he was spectacular in that.
Have you seen I Was Never Really There?
Yes.
That is, yes. I think Joaquin is excellent.
Joaquin kills it in that.
But I mean, he's great in the Joker, but I think he's just as good as in that movie too. And that movie, I feel like that also deals with a lot of the same themes that Joker deals with, and it was just done so much better. So whenever people talk about the Joker, I try to steer them towards that movie instead.
Well, see, I think Joaquin's gonna win.
You do.
The reason I say, not necessarily because he has the best performance, but because of the optics of the setup of this.
People who lose a lot of weight to do roles win Oscars. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, but I'm just going off even the people you named. I think a lot of people don't necessarily like the way that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood flipped the premise at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like how everyone was expecting the Manson family thing to go the way it does in real life. I think a lot of people weren't ready for that flip.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to hurt him
I mean, I thought it was awesome.
And I think no. I
liked it too.
I was fine with it, but I'm talking about like how someone going in just thinks like it's going to be the Manson family murders all over again. It ends up, this crazy situation going on at their house.
Mm-hmm.
And then also look at it from Joaquin's that they can say that we gave a comic book movie an Oscar. Someone in a comic book movie an Oscar. And validate comic book movies to a certain extent, or for the people that say comic books should have been nominated. Well, we gave you one, like kind of how they do black people when they give you an Oscar. It's like, well, we gave y'all
your consolation prize.
Yeah, we gave y'all one. Yeah, y'all can shut up now. We gave y'all one.
Well, and it sucks that if they want to do that, this is the movie they do it on, because I think Endgame is much better than this movie. Yeah. And then last year I thought Black Panther was much better. So it's just like if you're looking for a movie to do that, you've had other.
Dark Knight. I mean, you're talking about a movie.
Yeah.
Like.
Did Heath Ledger posthumously win?
Yeah, he won.
Okay,
and that was a death tax.
But that was.
I don't think they would have gave it to him if he didn't die.
It was supporting too. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just like I think Brad Pitt will win supporting for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I think that's a
I think that's always kind of sold. It's kind of locked down, right?
Is it his time finally?
No, I think he's just locked down. I think it's already locked down. I don't think nobody else is really. It's like when Viola Davis was in Fences. Like nobody else needed to show up. We'd already seen all this stuff.
I think we're talking about Oscars. I think that Hollywood's going to win Best Picture.
You think so?
I think it'll win Best Picture, but I think what the Academy will do is they'll do that thing where they split picture and director. So when they really sign off on a movie, they give it picture and they give the director Best Director. But I feel like this is a case that they're going to give Hollywood Best Film, but not Tarantino Best Director.
Because they don't like Tarantino.
I think they'll pick something else. I think they think he's obnoxious, or maybe they don't think Hollywood is good enough. The movie that everybody's talking about, and it's going to be the best movie of the year, is this movie called Parasite. Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
It hasn't come out yet. I cannot fucking wait for this movie to come out. I have heard.
Maybe I've seen the preview.
I saw one person. I read one person who was talking about it, and they said it's the best movie they've seen in the last 20 years.
Really, that's heavy.
It's a South Korean movie.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here.
And it's directed by this guy named Jang Bong-ho, who has directed some just really fascinating Korean movies over the years. But apparently, this is his masterpiece, and it's going to be this. But giving like a foreign language film like that best film is.
Didn't Crouching Tiger get it?
Crouching Tiger did not get it. I think Crouching Tiger was one of the ones. Wait, no, what beat Crouching Tiger? Hold on.
But it got like Best Supporting or something too.
Crouching Tiger was nominated. I don't think it won.
Okay.
But Parasite is a South Korean movie that is supposed to be so great that it'll probably be that director wins. This is my prediction. That director wins Best Director, and Tarantino's movie Hollywood wins Best Movie. That's what I ultimately think, because none of these other movies are really like necessarily blowing people away.
Yeah, this has not been the best year for movies.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I hope they nominate Dolomite.
Oh my goodness.
Dolomite, I hear it's pretty good.
No, I heard it's good. No,
really?
You're laughing. I'm halfway serious.
Okay.
I've heard it's supposed to be good, man.
What's your favorite movie you've seen this year?
Oh man,
Us.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Is it?
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Us.
I agree.
Mine is Us.
I agree with Us. If I was in control of Us,
you think they won't give Us a nomination at least?
I think Lupita will be nominated.
My guess is Lupita gets a nomination
for best
and
actress,
maybe Jordan gets an original screenplay nomination, which is
he might get a director nomination too.
Oh, God, I hope so. I mean, like if it's up to me, it would win everything. Because I'm not kidding. Us is a masterpiece.
No. Us is good, and like it's like we're talking about good writing. Like they give you deeper things to think about.
Exactly.
And it's like questions, but it's like debatable questions. Like we can have a discussion about.
Like if you were to compare Joker to Us, they're both genre films. Like they're not like these serious kind of hoity-toity movies. They both play in the genre, but the way that Peele gives you things to talk about and really taps on things that are happening in America, as opposed to Phillips, who just gives you just sort of a bunch of half-baked ideas that don't really mean anything. I think if you compare those two, Us is just unquestionably the better movie.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
And it also it'll make you see how bad Joker is, because Joker wants to hide behind the fact that it's just a genre movie, it's just a comic book movie. When it's time to hide behind it, but other times it wants to toit itself.
It says then
it's important. Like it's this movie that went to Venice, and they're doing an Oscar push behind it, and the fucking director's comparing it to Do the Right Thing in Clockwork Orange. But so when it's time to do that, they do that. But when it's time to protect themselves, they say, hey, it's a comic book movie. And I think that Us is an example of a movie that plays in genre, that is just fucking brilliant and doesn't have to hide behind it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Raven. Final thoughts, Raven.
Final thoughts. So one.
Did your score go up or down?
It's. I think it went down a little bit, actually. I do. I think it went down. Joaquin was brilliant. He was by far my favorite piece of this film, and I loved that he acted with every inch of his body. I loved the dancing scenes, which I interpreted as him coping with part of his coping mechanisms for the shit he was going through. And I've been trying to force a point of this movie, which is why, plus everything we've already talked about, that, I didn't love it. And the best thing I can come up with is, the scariest thing is the monster that we all create.
Oh man, thank you for coming on, man.
Oh yeah, no,
you were awesome on this, man.
No, this is a blast, and I love talking about film, so I love doing this shit.
So final thoughts, man.
I feel like you know what? I'll get into some positive stuff. What Raven mentioned is true. I do like I kind of like the fact that Joaquin gave what I think is essentially a silent film performance, and it's kind of predicated by him watching Charlie Chaplin at the beginning, and the fact that he can't talk is his form of communication that he wants to do, which is stand-up comedy, and he has to sort of abandon that, and he turns to dance. And I also like how his physical performance has went from like being like kind of uncoiling from that beginning stuff where he was just like a ball to being like
more expressive.
Yeah, more expressive and being more. So that was part of the reason I give it a 2. But ultimately, I think this movie's a mess, and I think this movie saw. Like basically, this movie just makes me want to watch the movies that it saw, and it wants to be like when I left this movie, I was like, God damn, Taxi Driver is a great movie. Yeah, this movie's not, and so I think that's my final thought on that.
I'm still at 3.5, maybe sliding closer to a 3, but I still thought it was a decent film. It was solid. It wasn't nothing crazy, but I think it's overthinking things. And I think some people talking about it's 10 out of 10 and 5 out of 5 can go suck them rocks because that you're smoking. Because it's not that. It's almost Inception-ist. Like I felt like almost like it's trying to be like Inception, but in Gotham City. Like, is everything not real? What's real? What's fake? And I didn't like that necessarily. It didn't make me think or discuss anything. Like when you talk about Us, it made you like, man, that whole time was this, but it didn't reveal everything to you for you to think something was one way. But it revealed enough for you to have a debate about it and be able to discuss what you thought was going on.
Yeah. One thing I told Raven, and we were talking about this before the show, but one of the reasons that we talked about, we hated the movie Crash. It was this movie. Crash was this movie that thought it was about racism, but the only point that it was making is that everybody's equally racist. And that's the only stupid point that movie was making, and I feel like that was the only point this movie was making.
Has the director of Crash did anything else?
Do what?
Did anything else? The director of Crash?
I don't remember.
The director of Crash, he did. He did a couple of things afterward. He wrote $1 Million Baby, which Clint Eastwood directed, and then he did Valley of Eli, I think it was called. It was a movie with Tommy Lee Jones, and then that was it. The director of Crash was really big into Scientology.
And he got lost in that world?
Yeah, he got lost in that world, and he's kind of off the radar now.
Into the clear.
Paul Higgis, that's his name.
Paul Higgis, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he got into the Scientology. That's even better. I can't wait till he comes out and do a movie about it. It'll be called Into the Clear.
Yeah.
Like I said, 3.5 for me. Thank y'all for listening as always, man. Like I said, man, Paul, thank you. Plug all your stuff, man. All your social medias, everything. People can hit you up.
Yeah. Just you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at PCHib on Twitter. And then I think the most important thing is just to follow the documentary because this movie is going to be awesome. And we are working our asses off, and the people who are our subjects are pouring their hearts out. So I really think this is going to be the movie I make that goes the most places. So if you want to follow it again on Facebook, it's Here's to Us, or just go to the website, here's-to-us.com.
Raven, where can everybody hit you up?
Ms. Culture. My page is no longer private. So you can just go straight on, see what I've got going on.
It's no longer private. Make sure you hit us up, Lando Cal Pod on Instagram, Lando Cal Pod on Twitter and on Facebook as well. And email us landocalpod@gmail.com. Thank y'all for sticking in with us. We got a lot of we gonna fuck you up if we see you in these streets emails. I don't appreciate those.
Wait, who sent that?
We have one listener that had a whole thing against both podcasts for a while. We both took breaks on all the podcasts for a second.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you.
Fuck you.
You remember the episode of Martin where he lost his job?
Yes.
Well, it was like a series of episodes. They had him unemployed for a minute, but he had got a job as a post office, worked for the post office. So he comes back to Gina's house, and she was like, "Baby, did you quit in the middle of your job with all this money?" He's like, "No, these are all my bills."
Oh.
And then he was like, "Look at all these bills, Gina." He was like, "First notice, second notice, don't let me catch your ass in the streets notice." And so they sent us the clip of "Don't let me let you catch your ass in the street" notice.
What were they mad about?
We hadn't did another
Oh, that's why y'all are mad. Sorry, we're back.
Yes.
If you have anything you want us to do, we still say we're going to do this Plug Love.
Yeah, man.
Review
Plug Love
soon.
is going to happen, man. Look, if Plug Love, we're going to have to do that one on video.
Yeah, we can record that
Yeah, we're going out
one.
to the studio and do that one on video. Man.
Okay.
All
right.
And slicing clips from Plug Love. I got a hookup maybe with the director, too.
Oh, really?
So, the director is the dude that played the chubby dude. That's the director.
Really?
That's the director.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
He has a series of good hood flicks. If you want to dive into a deep hole of great hood flicks on Amazon, start with Plug Love, and Amazon would automatically think you're black, and it will just give you all the different hood movies indirectly off after that. It'll mess up all your algorithm after that.
I know. I was about to say Adrian Sadler. Thanks for that
use
Amazon algorithm.
Oh, so you use on Adrian's Amazon?
No, I'm on mine. I'm saying Adrian works for Amazon.
Yeah, he's an operation team. Unless you're doing that Adrian on the low end, I didn't know. We need to get this a little bit better with this algorithm, man. We need smart stuff too. But no, thank y'all for listening as always. And once again, Paul, thank you for coming on. Man, you got to come on for another one, man.
Yeah, I would love to. So,
You want to come on for one where you want something you like more.
Yeah, we should do something horror themed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There we go. Maybe
I know.
Halloween, end of the month.
A Halloween movie.
Yeah, let's come back.
Yeah,
Halloween.
I mean Suspiria.
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 Man, I'll watch.
Maybe that'll be our next one.
Am I gonna be scared of this, man?
It's a little bit dated. I don't know how scared you'll be, but if you
Because I'm Conjurings.
just get really high first, and then you will love it.
Okay.
No, but it is kind of movie that it's really unsettling. So if unsettling shit makes you creeped out,
it's like monsters, like straight monsters.
Yeah.
Not like anything.
He's scared of dumb shit. You'll be fine.
Okay. Cool. That's what we'll do then. We'll bring you back in the month for the Halloween edition. I know Raven is big in Halloween.
yeah, I would love it.
So
too.
yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thanks y'all listening. Peace.